So good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'm delighted that you've made it here after lunch and you're still staying to want to talk about Oracle in the afternoon. My name is Rebecca Maxwell. I've been with Oracle now since about 2018. Before I joined the product development organization, I have I suppose, the quite scary scars of both being an HR professional, being an implementer of HR systems, and also a customer as well. So I moved over to working in product development about 4 years ago, and today I look after our Europe, Middle East, and Africa from an HCM perspective. So we've got about 30 minutes. I am going to try and keep a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A, but let's see how we go. I always welcome questions as we progress as well, but I may struggle to hear you a little bit. Before I progress, I am part of the product development organization, and today I am going to give you some insights into our greatest new technologies. So our safe harbor agreement is just up to say, I'm going to show you some good stuff. Please don't write it in a contract next week with Oracle, because that's not something we're going to be able to do. So before we go any further, we're going to start. Because it's after lunch, I'm going to start with a quiz, okay? So what I want to know is how many and what percentage of customers of Oracle do you think are using AI today? Anybody? Should I start with a number? 20%? Higher or lower? Higher? 40%? Lower? Lower? Okay, well in reality, 60% of our customers are currently using our AI capability. So they're actively using it in the products from a day-to-day perspective. Now, if you don't know about Oracle, I have to say a lot of people don't. We're a very big organization, but most people don't realize who we are. We actually are managing the lives of over 66 million people in our HR systems. And if you think about that from what that means from a transaction perspective, you know, we're paying over 24 million people on a weekly or a monthly perspective, and actually 368 million applicants are being managed in our systems every year. So from a statistics for a company that not a lot of people think about, because we're not always out there from an advertising perspective, we are really quite experienced in the HR space. What I would say as well, from an Oracle side of things, we're really proud to be in the top right-hand side of all of the analyst reviews. We started investing in cloud technologies in about 2014. And since then, we have worked really hard to make sure that when you want to buy a product, you can buy an Oracle product and know that you can actually use our entire suite from your HR experience. From working in recruitment, your HR systems, your talent, your performance, and your payroll. We want to be able to provide everything for our customers. And what you'll see today is we've actually not just doing that from the HR applications front, we're also doing that from an AI perspective too. We believe that if you are going to use AI capability within your applications, it should be within your applications themselves. So are we ready? First of all, I'm going to take you to the past. And I want to take you, I'm not going to look at anybody in particular, but I'm going to take you back into what HR systems used to feel like. So if you remember, when we used to use HR systems, we opened tabs, we followed click paths, we had to log in, we had to look at errors, we basically had to search for answers, and we really then had to try really hard to try and find some insights to really try and provide guidance to our organization. Does anybody remember having to write the monthly HR report where they say, tell us what's gone on in the organization this month and what you need to do next? And you sit there, week 3 or 4, going, oh my God, what does this mean? Why have we got these absences? Why are these people, what's happening to us? The world is changing, and that's what's wonderful about it today. So if you think about what that process looked like, it was quite a manual process. You had a system of record, all your information was held in a system, and then some HR administrator or HR leader used to have to go in there and try and figure out, what does this mean? What does this mean? Why is this happening? And then you would have to then provide insights and take action based on what had happened in the past. So the past is sometimes a good predictor of the future, but not always. But that was a really standard. Something very exciting is happening on down here. Hold on. Are we okay? Okay. So the world is changing quite a lot. If you look at where we're going from a tech perspective, the old way is now moving into a new way. So have you heard a lot about AI today? If everybody says yes, lots, okay. Have you heard about agentic AI today? Okay. I'm good, because I did have a slide about telling you just what agentic AI is. Now I'm glad I took it out, because we don't need it, because you've had it before. But really what agentic AI is, it's taking active teammates from an agent perspective, and it's coordinating them to deliver things on your behalf. So if I try and explain what that means in I suppose, a non-tech term, what we have is we have an agent that completes individual tasks and activities. And what we're doing from a technical perspective is have lots of individual agents completing a task and activity who are then coordinated by a supervisor. And that supervisor is actually your agent. So let's have a look at that, what that means. So agentic applications, the big thing that you'll see is different is we're not driving it by a process. We are driving it by an outcome. And from an HR side, what that means is we're almost going to have to go back to learning to work in natural language. So do you remember when you used to log onto your HR system and you have to think, oh God, I'm going to have to try and speak computer now to get some information out in the way that the computer understands? In the future, we are building agentic applications in natural language so they really understand what you're wanting to say. They actually said, I want to know, why are these people leaving my organization? But also, it's proactive. So back to the historically pulling information, trying to find the insights. Agentic applications are looking into the future and making recommendations for you. What should I be doing from a decision-making process? What action should I be taking from a technology perspective? And really, it's about helping me make decisions for my organization before they become an issue. It's about planning for the future, making sure that I understand when change is going to happen and I do something about it. So I'm actually going to show you briefly one of our applications. I know that we've developed lots of agentic applications, but the one I'm going to show you today, I love this title. It's called the Oracle Workforce Operations Command Center. Now, we are still in development this. It's due, I think, in about 3 months' time. But the first question I want to ask is, how much do you reckon that we're going to change that name before it goes live? I think we will. I think it sounds very technical. So the Workforce Operation Command Center is really an automated system. And what this does, it enables you to manage, track, and control what's happening within your organization in a very simple and easy way. So I'm going to actually show you a little bit of what this looks like in practice. So what we have here, this is a demo that we've pre-recorded for today, is around workforce managers. So the workforce managers are really interested in what's happening around my workforce scheduling, my absences, activities I need to focus on. So if you think about an organization and you've got an operations manager, they don't want to be going into HR systems. People who want to go into HR systems are HR professionals. They want to go in, they want to complete an activity, and to be frank, they want to get out and go back to their real job. So the way that we have developed our command center is very much around trying to make sure that people have access to information at a point of need. And you can see here what we've got is we've got scheduling times and absences, and we can see what, instead of having to go through the timesheets and time records, what it's doing, it's actually looked at the timesheets and applications in the system and said, you've got some critical issues from a scheduling perspective. You need to start addressing these, and you need to take action today. It's also telling me you've got a series of communications that are due out across your organization. You need to tell your teams that they need to complete their time cards. You need to actually complete a workforce summary, which is due to be distributed. And you also need to do things like look at upcoming absences. And what we're seeing here, I think, did you just see that? What happened? So what happened is the shift that came up as an issue, the manager was able to go directly into the action and reassign it to an employee without actually having to go into any time applications whatsoever. So again, let's take a step back. This isn't an HR professional. This is somebody who needs to go in and manage their shifts for their workforce. Straight away, I could go in here, manage my priority actions, and I can get out and carry on doing my job that I'm supposed to be there for. So what does that mean from an activity perspective? Well, it means quite a lot, really. It changes the complete dynamic of how we are using technology and how we think about the way we behave in the future. So if you think about this, historically, you'd get your schedules out, you'd understand where you've got some issues, and then you'd try and address these, you'd go and ring around, see if you could get some coverage, and then you'd actually say, well, okay, can I try and get this in the future? What's happening in the future, which will be very soon, is actually, rather than you having to go out and find the resources, the system understands who you've got available, looking at your shift patterns and your availability and your absences, and makes recommendations and shortlists to say, based on this shift and the skills and capability that you need, we recommend you have these 3 people who are available to complete this work today. So rather than you having to go away and start find those schedules, the system is making recommendations for you. So if you think about that from a scheduling manager, I think that's a real game changer. It really is around how I can use technology going forwards. So what's that doing? Well, remember that process, oh, am I available, not available? You've cut out that requirement for approvals, because in many ways you've already identified that they're available. So you've short-circuited a lot of the, try and understand availability, but again, it makes things a lot easier from an approval perspective. The second piece is really around, let's cut out some of the complex, time-consuming, manual transactional activities. Just let me focus on exceptions. Let me focus on the things that I have to do with something without trawling through oodles of content to figure out what to do next. And again, what that does, it really starts to think about, I'm going to manage by exceptions, which means I'm managing by compliance. One of the things we say from a technology perspective in our HR systems is that compliance, following of policy and process and standards continue to be an absolute priority within your HR systems. Security, accuracy of data continues to be a priority, but actually we're using that breadth of content to actually really change how you operate. The final piece really is, the last section here was around missing time cards. Has anybody had to phone round? Have you submitted your time card? Have you submitted your time card? Have you submitted your time card? It's something I think we've all had to do at some point in the past, and now what's happening is the application can identify exceptions and say, we're going to go out, we're going to contact these people, we're going to ask them to submit the time card, and then, if they still haven't done it, we're going to then let you know, and then you're going to do something about it. So, what does people think about that? Anybody? Any thoughts? I'm not sure I'd hear you, but it really is a difference in the way that you think about managing schedules, time, absences, and really communication. But that's just one example. I say I'm from product development, so I'm allowed to show you this slide. So some of these things are literally coming out in a couple of weeks in our next release, and some of them are being developed over the coming months. So we've not just built the Workforce Command Center, we've actually developed a real broad brush of capabilities. And again, the way that we work within our development organization is we speak to our customers. We understand what is our priority, what do we actually need to develop as the best thing forward. There's no point us developing something if nobody wants to use it. So we go through a process. What do you want to use? Why is it important to you? But perhaps more importantly, and the key to successful AI, is what are your biggest business issues that we can help you address? And for this reason, these have become some of our examples. So we have a strong retail base. And what they've said is, we really need some help from a hiring workspace. Retailers can actually look at turnover from between 40 to 70 or 80% annually. So, hiring and recruiting people into organization is absolutely critical. Hiring workspace using agentic AI capability actually takes the strain for a lot of those retail organizations. And we've got a few trialing it already. We've got a manager concierge. So think back to my earliest comment about managers are there to work in your organization. They're not there to be HR. So we've created a concierge workspace, which again short-circuits a lot of the activities that managers need to complete and really just prioritize. You need to complete these performance reviews for these 3 people. You've got somebody who isn't actually recording things properly. You've got somebody who's got a high level of absence. Again, as a manager, I go in and I address what's happening. We've also created a team learning workspace as well. It's great to see we've got learning technologies as well here, so I'm really proud that we've got this in place. But this is around, what learning do my people need to complete? Is it mandatory? Is it optional? Is it part of their skills development? But this is actually to help managers understand, where is my coverage from a learning perspective? Because if you think about what the future brings, and again, back to the whole, we think about the future from a technology perspective, if you look at how we're going to be staffing organizations in the future, it really is going to change. If you look at the change in demographics in Europe, as well as the UK, if you look at the change in age profiles, and if you think about how, even today, it's really quite challenging to find the talent you need, we really need to start thinking differently about learning. The team learning workspace is not just about filling gaps, filling holes, it's about making sure you understand, have you got the skills available for your succession for the future? Have you got the skills developing today for perhaps your retirement problems that you may have in the future? I don't know if anybody else is facing this, but there's quite a big retirement cliff edge coming in the next couple of years. I don't know what's happening in your organisation, but if you're not thinking about skills today of your current workforce, then even now or in a couple of years' time, that cliff, that retirement cliff, is coming to a lot of us. The reason for that is if you look back into sort of the boom of the 80s, we recruited in a lot of people. They now have huge amounts of experience. They're all coming up to retire. So if you're not thinking about that today, slightly off topic, but I would encourage you to have a think about the workforce, particularly if you're in financial services. The other piece, we don't just do things for managers and for HR, we also think about our people as well, so our workforce. So we've actually got a career advancement centre for our employees. So back to the whole challenges with talent. Okay, you've got talent, so how do we make sure we keep and engage with those talent? So this is around, how can I look at open roles, how can I link people to opportunities, how can I actually make them aware that there's training available, and really try and keep people engaged with events and really learning activities that are going on in the future. We've also got team calibration, which is very much around succession planning in the future. Again, links in with your learning, your talent, your skills. My Help Workspace. So I don't know if anybody looks at their help desk capability and how they're running it today and just how challenging some of those questions are. Actually, we have developed a My Help Workspace, which really enables you to track open requests, understand what's happening within your organization, but also create that one place to go for insights, information. If you think about your triage system when it comes to help centers, actually, we believe that by using agentic AI, at least 50%, if not more, of the queries that are coming through in your organization can be addressed by your agents that sit within there. And the last one, this is always my favorite, and the reason for that is I work with some organizations who have some really complex contracts, and what we have is a contracts advisor. So anybody who's worked in any organization that's either had multiple 2Ps, who has an international workforce, who has protected terms and conditions, will know what an absolute minefield contracts can be if you've not got your head around it. We've recognized this and we've developed a contracts advisor which really helps you monitor your contract terms, understand when legislation changes, and makes recommendations where you need to make adjustments within contracts. Even better, it actually automates and makes recommendations for the next steps of how you actually change those contracts. So probably not one that sort of everybody understands, but if you're in that environment where you are acquiring or you've got multinational employees, then it's one that's really, really beneficial. So these are huge, huge changes within HR. I mean, this is really, if you think about the historical career for an HR professional, you would come in as administrator. If you were really lucky, you'd do a bit of photocopying and maybe sit in on an interview and take some notes. Then you progress into studying your CIPD. Then you might become a manager or you work on the help desk. And then over time, you progress into a business partner or HR manager, HR leader, etc. But this changes everything. We say AI changes everything, and we mean it. Because that actual progression is now very, very different. Because we have literally automated quite a lot of those processes. So if you're sitting here as an HR professional today and you're thinking, what does the future look like? I think it looks a little bit like this, which is you've gone from somebody who the organization comes through and said, why have we got absences? What is this happening? You become a strategist. You become looking at your data within your organization and you're actually really thinking about insights, visibility of what's happening and thinking about the future. But also audit and compliance. That role is changing as well. Does anybody remember, you've got audit coming in next week. They're going to come in and they're going to check everything to make sure you're following all the processes. Oh, my God. Quick, tidy up. Tidy up, auditor on the way. No, this changes massively. In the future, if you've got violations of policies, you'll know about it when it's happening, so you can do something about it. But budget variances, again, finance coming over. Why have you overspent on learning? You'll know about it as it's happening. You can do something about it. And also, this is all about taking action while it's happening rather than in the future. So that whole, remember we talked at the beginning about we have to do something and take actions from the past. This is very much proactive and future thinking about what's going to happen. So really it's about that whole 4-weekly process of trying to understand is now a constant activity and change of processes. what we're saying is not creating more work, it's actually changing the dynamics of how that is actually going to take place in the first place. So, does anybody feel a bit wobbly when they put something in ChatGPT? It's like, oh, where's this data going? Who's going to look at this in the future? Are they going to know all about me? Yes, they will. That's just one answer. But what does that mean from a tech perspective? If you are looking at putting AI, agentic AI, any capabilities in your organization, there's some really key things that you should be remembering and actually having as part of your plans for the future. The first one is you absolutely need to make all your decisions human-driven. So there are a lot of things, a lot of processes, a lot of ways of working that can be automated, can be standardized, fantastic. But there are also areas where you really should sit and stand and say, no. There are areas where you may have to make ethical trade-offs, where you're going to have to make compromises, particularly around things, for example, workforce rebalancing, about allocation of training to certain people and not others, around relocation, for example. These all require a human thinking and a human way of working. The nuances as well, simple things, why is this happening? The system is not going to tell me that the reason this is happening is because there was a flood in a village, and the reason they're all late for work is because actually all the buses were cancelled. The system is never going to know those kind of nuances of what's happening day to day in your operations. It requires that human in the loop. It's not going to help you with any kind of complexity. Anything that is non-standard, you require your HR professionals to still be involved in. And finally, high impact strategic decisions. You're not going to ask your technology to run your organization for you. It's going to help you automate things, but it's not actually going to make the decisions for you. Absolutely critical. But don't forget, you can actually remove a lot of the stuff as well. Routine actions, so anything that you can scale, that has a pattern, routine, and you want to put some momentum behind it, I think that should be available for you from a agentic AI and automation perspective. Routine, connecting signals, where do I want to see patterns, spotting risks, risk management, let's do it before it happens. And then finally, actually what matters, when it matters. Tell me what I need to prioritize and let me do something about it. So the next slide I put up for one of my colleagues, and he's an ex-HR professional, and his message was, ooh, controversial. So I'm going to ask you, do you think your HR organization structure will look a little bit like this in the future? Where? What you have is at the top is you have your people, so you have your HR professionals. And unlike today, what they're doing is they're setting your vision, your organization priorities, and they're defining just how you're going to operate the organization. What are your KPIs? What should people be allowed and not be allowed to do? And then what I'm doing is I'm not working with a team of administrators, I'm working with a team agentic applications. And what they're doing is they're providing prioritization, guidance, and advice to me. It's actually doing things I'm asking it to do within guardrails, and it's actually doing a heck of a lot of processing. And then below those, again, is you've got your applications that are reporting into your agentic AI capability. So I don't know what people think about this. I think it is controversial, but also from a strategic point of view, I do think there's a strong element of the future in this. So we've talked a lot about AI and where we're sitting. Just from an Oracle perspective, we used to put numbers on this slide, but it got a bit silly because we were updating the slide literally every week. That's how quickly we are investing and prioritizing. So we've had to put hundreds. What I can say is the last count was about 2 months ago, and we had over 300 that sit within our technology. And since then, our partners who we work with really closely, they've developed hundreds as well that they have available for their customers. But every day we are focusing more and more about bringing technology to you as a user. Is anybody sitting there going, sounds fantastic, where do I start? Well, I love this slide, not because it's quite scary, because I actually think it's very simple in itself. If you take a step away from the technology and you think about yourself as an HR professional who is managing an organization, and you've got your process steps right the way through from, I'm looking at recruiting, I've got my core HR systems, I've got performance, I've got talent, I'm managing my workforce and my payroll, and at the end, I've got my life cycle management, which I think politely means retire, or the other one. And what you can do here using this is say, well, where are my priorities? Where are my biggest issues that I face? So don't look at all of it. Think, where are my biggest issues today? Recruiting. I need recruiting, and I'm finding it really hard. I've really hard to try and attract people into the organization, So actually, I can look at the recruiting and say, well, what I've got here is I've got an employee hiring advisor. I've got an interview management assistant. I've got a job posting description. And I can actually use and prioritize the AI capability that sits in that area. So you can go think, where are my biggest issues as an organization? Actually, that's where I'm going to focus. I have issues around creating goals. I have issues around regular management and performance. We're actually going to switch those on and start with them. What's really interesting, when we've actually looked at the statistics of usage of AI within our customers, we have very strong telematics that sits within our technology. And what it says is, where we're seeing the biggest and earliest adoption of AI is actually in performance. And I think that's really interesting. You'd expect it to be, we've seen a lot of action in recruiting, but performance is actually one of the priority areas. And the reason for that is people really struggle to write their own reviews. They really struggle to set goals, and having an agent that actually helps them word things really helps them out. So we're seeing a lot of action. Also, from you trying something in your organization, it's probably quite a safe place to start. You can really benchmark what that looks and feels like. I've had my 5 minutes, and I'm going to try and keep a bit of time for some questions. But what I want to say is, really, we're redefining the way work exists. We say AI changes everything. It's literally been a couple of minutes, but I'm hoping that what I've done today is really, I suppose, expose you to a little bit about what the future is going to look and feel like from an HR professional. We're really redefining what's possible. We're democratizing the knowledge that's out there from an HR professional perspective. We're actually changing the capacity of what people and organizations could do. And we're really changing the way that we manage our operations. It's no longer guesstimates, it's actually exacting data and information that you're acting on. So just before I stop, there's just 3 things I really wanted to say to you. AI changes everything, but there are 3 key messages that I was to share with you today. The first one is really protect your data. Do you remember I made that slightly facetious comment about, I wonder what people are putting in ChatGPT? Really understand where your data sits within your organization and what people are doing with it. And make sure that your people have guardrails in place so that you know that your data is protected within your environment. Work with your IT teams. If you're an HR professional, IT are your friends. They are the people that you should be working with partnership on a day-to-day basis. So really try and ensure that if you are wanting to do something in the AI space or in the technology space, work in partnership with your tech team. And the reason for that was we found a lot of stories where, HR have gone off and bought this new capability, and IT are like, where does that fit in our big architecture? Really try and work and make sure that you're making consistent decisions. And the final one is own your AI strategy. There's a lot of organizations who are coming today saying, we will help you develop your AI strategy. That's fantastic, but just make sure it's yours and it represents your organization. It represents how you want to communicate to your people. It actually recognizes how you want to speak to your customers, but also, perhaps more importantly, what is your risk appetite for the usage of AI within your organization? Make sure it reflects what you want to do today and that you're planning for tomorrow. So if you want to learn more, because 30 minutes is not long at all, we're only here at E44, and I know we've got a great team of Oracle people here. My colleagues will absolutely love to answer more questions. I think I've got 44 seconds for any questions that you may have, if I can hear you. Anybody? No? Everybody's scared now. We're all writing about CVs and becoming AI experts, I think. Thank you.